Welcome back to CMF Conspiracies. Today, we're diving into the rise and fall of Diddy. Shocking allegations and federal charges explained. We're talking about Sean Diddy Combs, a name that's like synonymous with hip-hop,
Yeah.
for building an empire that goes way beyond music,
hmm
from fashion to TV and everything in between.
He really was an icon,
Adjacent.
shaping the careers of so many of the biggest names in hip hop.
Exactly.
And his influence just went way beyond the music industry.
Exactly. So how did this icon, this mogul, go from the top of the world to facing serious federal charges?
Right.
It's a wild story.
It really is. It all started to kind of unravel in November 2023
Okay.
with a lawsuit from someone very close to Diddy, Cassie Ventura, his longtime partner. It was a bombshell with some really serious accusations.
Okay, so let's unpack this Cassie Ventura lawsuit a little bit.
Yeah.
She was with Diddy for over a decade, right?
That's right, over a decade together. And in her lawsuit, she accused Diddy of some pretty horrific things: physical abuse, sex trafficking, and even claimed that he destroyed her then-boyfriend's car.
Wow. Those are incredibly serious allegations.
Yeah.
And this lawsuit came seemingly out of nowhere, right?
Yeah, it seemed to, yeah.
What was Diddy's response to this?
He denied everything, of course, but here's where it gets interesting.
Okay.
The lawsuit was settled almost immediately, within 24 hours.
Wait, a 24-hour settlement?
Yeah.
That's incredibly fast, even with denials.
Yeah.
It definitely raises some eyebrows.
Right.
I mean, what do you make of such a quick settlement? Does it raise questions about Diddy's motives? Or was it just an attempt at damage control?
It's certainly unusual, and it makes you wonder if there was more to the story than met the eye.
Right.
But what's even more alarming is that this wasn't an isolated incident. 2 more lawsuits followed close behind,
Oh, wow.
broadening the scope of the accusations against Diddy.
So this wasn't just a one-time thing. A pattern was starting to emerge here.
Exactly, and things escalated pretty quickly. By October 2024, attorney Tony Busby, who you might recognize from other high-profile cases, announced he was representing a staggering 120 individuals ready to take legal action against Diddy.
120 individuals. That's unbelievable. What were they accusing Diddy of?
The accusations were really varied and disturbing, ranging from sexual misconduct to human trafficking, and painting a very dark picture of Diddy's behavior. And even more shocking, 25 of these individuals were minors.
This is getting really heavy. It's hard to reconcile this image with the Diddy we saw on MTV at award shows building this massive empire.
It is a jarring contrast, and it gets even more difficult to process when you consider what happened next.
Okay.
In May 2024, CNN released hotel surveillance footage that seemed to corroborate some of the accusations.
Hold on, wait. Actual footage of Diddy? What did this footage show?
The footage showed Diddy physically assaulting Cassie Ventura in a Los Angeles hotel back in 2016.
Whoa, so this wasn't just hearsay anymore. There was actual video evidence of Diddy's actions.
Yeah.
That must have been a turning point in the public's perception of him.
Absolutely. Up until that point, it was a case of he said, she said. But with the release of the video, things became much more concrete. Diddy issued a public apology calling his actions inexcusable. But at that point, it seems like damage control.
Right, words can only do so much when there's video evidence to contradict them. And as we know, things didn't end there, did they?
No, they did not, just a few months later. In September 2024, Diddy was arrested and indicted in the Southern District of New York.
Wow, federal charges. This is a major escalation. What were the specific charges?
The indictment included charges of racketeering, sex trafficking by force, and transportation for purposes of prostitution.
Wow.
You might be wondering what racketeering means. It essentially involved engaging in a pattern of illegal activities as part of an organized criminal enterprise.
Okay.
Diddy pleaded not guilty to the charges.
And yet I understand that despite pleading not guilty, bail was denied multiple times.
That's right.
That suggests that the judge saw something particularly concerning in the evidence presented.
Exactly. The judge clearly believed that Diddy posed a flight risk or a potential danger to the community, which is why bail was denied not once but multiple times.
And despite all of this, even more alleged victims continued to come forward, with even more disturbing allegations.
That's right. 2 lawsuits filed in October 2024 were particularly shocking.
Okay, what were the details of these lawsuits?
One lawsuit alleged that Diddy had sexually assaulted a 10-year-old boy back in 2005.
Oh my God, that's horrific. What about the other lawsuit?
The other lawsuit accused Diddy of abusing a 17-year-old contestant from his reality show Making the Band in 2008.
So these accusations span a number of years and involve minors. This is incredibly serious, and I imagine it really changed public perception of Diddy.
Absolutely. These accusations were a major blow to his already tarnished reputation, and it felt like the walls were closing in.
By the start of 2025, Diddy's legal troubles had become a full-blown media spectacle.
It was everywhere.
It was impossible to ignore.
News outlets were covering every development, dissecting his rise to fame and his very public downfall.
And it wasn't just the news rate. Networks were also creating documentaries and series about Diddy's life and legal troubles.
You're absolutely right. Peacock released a documentary called Diddy, The Making of a Bad Boy, and Investigation Discovery aired a 4-part series titled Fall of Diddy.
It seems like everyone was trying to capitalize on Diddy's downfall. How did he react to all of this media attention?
He wasn't happy about it. In fact, his representatives filed a $100 million defamation lawsuit
Wow.
against NBC Universal Peacock and Ample Entertainment.
$100 million. That's a huge statement. It seems like he was trying to control the narrative and fight back against these portrayals.
It does seem that way. But the legal battles kept piling up, overshadowing any attempts to repair his image.
And it wasn't just impacting Diddy himself. There was a ripple effect throughout the music industry, right?
Absolutely. Longtime associates and friends started distancing themselves from Diddy. Some began reevaluating their past relationships with him in light of the allegations.
What about Justin Bieber? He was mentored by Diddy early in his career, wasn't he?
Yes, and there are reports that Bieber has been struggling in the wake of these allegations against Diddy. There's even speculation that some of his career uncertainty and recent health issues could be linked to this whole situation.
It's a reminder that these kinds of scandals don't just impact the person at the center. There's
Exactly.
collateral damage.
And now we're on the verge of Diddy's trial, scheduled for May 2025. There are so many questions hanging in the air.
It's a stunning turn of events, from music mogul to facing the possibility of life in prison.
It really is.
It's hard to believe this is the same person.
And it makes you wonder, does power corrupt? Or were the seeds of Diddy's downfall always there, hidden beneath the surface of success?
That's a question we'll all be pondering as this case unfolds. We'll be back in part 2 to delve even deeper into the story of Diddy's rise and fall. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. It's hard to fathom how someone with such a public persona, someone who was seemingly at the top of their game, could be facing such serious accusations. It's like we're talking about two different people here.
That's the intriguing part of this whole story. Diddy's carefully crafted public image, the charismatic entrepreneur, the music icon. It starkly contrasts with the allegations of abuse and misconduct. It makes you wonder, was this a side of him that was always there, lurking beneath the surface? Or did something change over time?
That's the million-dollar question. And it raises even bigger questions about the music industry itself.
Right.
Do you think there's something about the culture of this industry, the power dynamics at play, that might have allowed this alleged behavior to go unchecked for so long?
It's a question that many are grappling with. The music industry, like many entertainment industries, is built on hierarchies and power imbalances. There's a lot of pressure to succeed.
Right.
And sometimes that pressure can lead to compromised morals and a culture of silence. It wouldn't be surprising if some people turned a blind eye to Diddy's behavior because of his power and influence.
It's a sobering thought. And let's not forget, these allegations span decades.
Yeah.
From the alleged assault in the early 90s to the more recent accusations.
That's right.
It's a long and disturbing timeline.
That's a crucial point. This isn't a case of a few isolated incidents.
Right.
This is a pattern of behavior that allegedly continued for years, potentially with many people aware of what was happening.
It makes you wonder, were there warning signs that were ignored? Were there people who knew but were afraid to speak up because of Diddy's power and influence?
It's certainly possible. Fear and intimidation can be powerful tools for silencing people, especially in an industry where your career and livelihood can depend on those in positions of power.
And that's why this whole case is so significant. It's forcing us to confront some uncomfortable truths about the music industry, and it raises important questions about responsibility and accountability.
Absolutely. It highlights the need for greater transparency and accountability within the music industry. And it underscores the importance of creating a culture where victims feel safe coming forward without fear of reprisal.
It's a reminder that we all have a responsibility to speak up when we see something wrong. Regardless of the person's status or position, silence only protects the abuser and perpetuates a culture of complicity.
Exactly. This is a systemic issue. That requires a systemic solution. It's not enough to simply hold individuals accountable.
Right.
We need to address the underlying power structures and create a culture of respect and safety for everyone.
This deep dive is about so much more than Diddy. It's about shining a light on the potential for abuse that exists within these systems of power and advocating for change.
You're right, it's about using this case as a catalyst for a broader conversation about ethics, power, and responsibility within the entertainment industry and beyond.
You can't undo the past, but we can learn from it and work towards creating a better future for artists and everyone involved in the music industry.
And that starts with listening to and believing the victims. Their stories are crucial in understanding the scope of the problem and developing solutions for a safer and more equitable industry.
This conversation has been incredibly insightful. In part 3, we'll discuss the potential consequences for Diddy, the impact on his legacy, and what this means for the future of the music industry. Stay tuned. So we've spent the last 2 parts unpacking these shocking allegations against Diddy, the federal charges that he's facing, and the broader implications for the whole music industry.
Right.
Now, as we approach his trial in May 2025, it's time to look ahead. What are the potential consequences Diddy could face? How will this impact his legacy? And what does this all mean for the future of the music industry?
Well, it's hard to overstate the seriousness of the charges against Diddy. You know, we're talking about racketeering, sex trafficking by force and transportation for purposes of prostitution. If convicted, he could be facing a significant amount of prison time.
Right.
Potentially decades.
And the fact that bail was denied multiple times
Yeah.
definitely indicates that the court views this case as particularly egregious.
Right.
It's a far cry from the world of luxury and fame that Diddy once inhabited. The contrast is truly stark.
It is, and beyond the legal ramifications, there's the question of Diddy's legacy.
Right.
How will he be remembered in light of these allegations and charges? It's hard to imagine his legacy remaining untarnished.
His empire,
Yeah.
his brand, everything he built,
Yeah.
was carefully cultivated over decades. Now it's crumbling before our eyes. And it raises the question, will this case serve as a wake-up call for the music industry? Can it truly address the issues of power imbalances and exploitation that have been brought to light?
This is a defining moment for the industry. You know, it's time for some serious soul-searching.
Okay.
There needs to be a real commitment to creating a safer and more equitable environment for artists, especially young and vulnerable ones.
So where do we go from here? What needs to happen to create real change within the music industry? What can we all do?
Well, it starts with acknowledging the problem. You know, we can't sweep these issues under the rug any longer.
Right.
We need open and honest conversations about power, consent, and accountability
Yep.
within the industry.
And it goes beyond just talking, right?
Yeah,
We need action, concrete steps that
absolutely.
protects artists and create a culture where abuse is not tolerated.
We need stronger safeguards in place, clear reporting mechanisms, support systems for victims, and perhaps most importantly, we need to shift the culture to create an environment where everyone feels safe to speak up without fear of reprisal.
It's clear that Diddy's trial is going to be a major news story, but it's vital to remember that this isn't just about one man. It's about a system that allowed this to happen.
Right.
And it's about the need for change to ensure it doesn't happen again.
You're right, this is a systemic issue that requires a systemic solution. And it's not just the music industry. These power dynamics exist in many industries, and it's up to all of us to challenge them and demand better.
This deep dive into the rise and fall of Diddy has been a difficult but necessary journey. We've covered a lot of ground, from the shocking allegations to the potential consequences and the broader implications for the music industry. It's a reminder that power and fame don't excuse bad behavior, and that we all have a role to play in creating a safer and more just world.
It's a reminder that we need to listen to and believe survivors and hold those in positions of power accountable for their actions. And it's a call to action for all of us to be more aware, to speak up against injustice, and to work towards creating a culture of respect and safety for everyone.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll continue to follow this story as it unfolds and keep you updated on any developments.
Thank you for joining CMF Conspiracies podcast. What do you think about the topic we covered today? Comment below with your thoughts on this subject. If you have a conspiracy you wish for us to deep dive into, please send your topic to our email address or leave it in the comments. Thank you again for watching. Like and subscribe for more content like this.